Once, in a book, I read that defense is the best offense, and that's why I tried to beat Elden Ring with only a shield. Turns out, offense is the best defense, and that explains my pain through the run. The rules are pretty simple, I can only use shields, no glitches, and I will get all the remembrances, meaning that I have to beat all the main and hardest bosses. We run around the place and meet Melina, get our horse, and then we ride to the south. Here, if we take a Spirit Spring, we can get the Great Dog Shell, a shield that will improve our stamina regeneration and that looks cool. From there we can run around Stormveil Castle to get to Liurnia, where we stay on the right side, on the hills, until we end up in the Ul Palace ruins, where if we stay near the big dog we can find the Spiral Horn shield. That isn't a particularly good shield, but it deals bleed damage. Back in Limgrave we can reach the third Church of Marika, where we can get the Physic Flask, that will have different effects based on what tears we put into it. And behind the church we can find a warp that will bring us to the Dragon Barrow. Here we are officially in the if anything touches us we are dead zone, but we managed to ride around and get behind this big dragon. In the beach at the beginning of the game we can find a gold foul foot that if consumed will let us get more runes from fallen enemies for a couple of minutes. And since bleed damage is based on max HP, we can kill the big dragon without any worry by hitting it for some time. I mean, shields have so little range that I had to find a way to hit the dragon, but with that and the gold foot that's some easy 100,000 runes. Level 35 done, and we want to have at least 20 strength for our next weapon, well, our next shield. We want to get to the Summon Water village now, to get an emblem that will improve our stamina regeneration, because blocking hits requires a lot of stamina, and since the last patch, early game merchants will sell Smithing Stones 1 and 2, so we buy them along the way. Next, we go to South Limgrave, where we can find Fort Hate and get half Dectus Medallion, and then we go to Fort Faroth, that is behind the used dragon from before, where we get the other half of the medallion. Now we just need to go to Liurnia, get a Glintstone key from a Happy Donor behind the dragon, so that we can go through the Academy gate. We won't enter the Academy yet, but we can get out of the other gate and after running a bit we get to the lift. And since we have both sides of the medallion, we can enter Altus Plateau. Here we run around the outer walls, because along the way we can meet a merchant on this bridge that will sell us a great shield. It requires 30 strength, meaning that if we use it with 2 hands we only need 20 strength. We can easily get in the capital from the less guarded side entrance, and inside we can get a ton of golden seeds. And I mean, it's a mandatory place, we will need to go there eventually, so might as well do it now and get some more healing flasks. We can test the great shield against Margit, and it's really good because it blocks 100% of the physical damage and it doesn't drain that much stamina, meaning we can easily stand in front of Margit and wait for him to have an opening. His phantom sword and hammer attacks aren't physical, meaning that we can block them, but we will take some damage, so dodging them is still the best option. The shield deals poor damage, is very slow, and it doesn't allow us to perform riposts, backstabs or anything that has a special animation where we hit the enemy in general. We can still stagger and stun, but our best option in that case is to do a charge attack. This game introduced the guard counter mechanic, where if we block a hit and we do a strong attack right after, we will use a special attack that is quite fast, deals a good amount of damage and staggers a lot, but we won't be blocking during that attack, so we can only use it at the end of an attack sequence or in a situation where we know we won't be staggered. The only way we have to attack while blocking is to use the shield bash skill that we have, and it's pretty good, but it requires FP and consumes a lot of stamina. That said, attacking with the shield sucks, but we have like 9 flasks and it's the first boss in the game, so he falls. From there we can proceed into the castle, and we want to listen to the absolutely trustworthy NPC and get the road on the left, where, after a grace, in the first set of stairs we can find the Marred Shield, a medium shield that attacks fast, has decent damage reduction and, most importantly, deals bleed damage. From there we can go onward, and in the room we get locked in we can get the Curved Sword Talisman, that improves guard counters, and in the woods in Limgrave, in some ruins, we can get the Axe Talisman, that improves charge attacks. We got a couple of graces in the castle, but instead of proceeding there we want to go into the Academy of Rhea Lucaria, where you can ignore every enemy around and face the first boss, the Red Wolf of Radagon. This fight can be annoying because the wolf will jump around all the time, and even if we block its magic attacks we will take more damage than we would like. The best way to get some attacks in is to stand in front of the wolf and wait for it to try and bite our shield, so that after blocking we can use a guard counter. Surprisingly, the shiny orange sword that he magically summons in its mouth actually only deals physical damage, so we can block it free. freely. We can hit it with charge attacks after it jumps in the air with a sword, and it's prone to being stunned, giving us even more opening to do some fully charged attacks. We came to Raya Lucaria for a reason, and it's this greenstone whetblade we can find in a room in the Fountain Square just outside the boss room, because it will allow us to infuse our weapon with magic, or, more importantly, cold when we use an Ash of War. First though, we need to find the Ash of War, but it can be found under the northern section of the collapsed bridge here in Raya Lucaria, and killing these teleporting beetles in melee can be annoying, but if we go towards them while keeping their bolt between us and them, they won't be able to spot us and we can hit freely. With that, we infuse the Marred Shield with cold, because its blood damage will only drop from 50 to 45, but it will have a 66 frost damage added to it. The actual damage we deal with a hit will be lowered, but it would have been basically nothing either way for now. We go back to the castle, and after some parkour on the roofs, we can fight Godric the Grafted, our first remembrance. We could just use the small shield and roll, but since we are allowed to use shields, why not take full advantage of that? Godric's attacks are almost all physical, and blocking them won't cost that much stamina, but some of them will knock us back so we can't really attack right after we block. Here we can see the biggest problem with shields, and it's not the damage or how slow they are or the lack of customization, it's the range, straight up awful. You can see it clearly here. A third or more of our attacks will miss him even when we can't get closer to him, because his body will block us from going forward, but his hitbox isn't there. It will happen with most bosses that are bigger than us, but it's not as bad in this case. We can play normally and just stay a bit closer to him than usual. Both Frost and Bleed deal damage based on the opponent's max HP, meaning that yes, our base damage is low, but we just need to hit him enough so that we will bleed and frostbite him a couple of times, and he will be dead regardless if he has 1,000 or 1,000,000 total HP. That said, every time we inflict a status effect on an enemy, it will be harder to inflict it again, so if we were to use only either Bleed or Frost, it would take much more time to actually win the fight. In phase 2 he will start to use some fire attacks, but most of the time we can run under them or dodge them. His grab attack is a bit more dangerous, since it can be blocked and we have to remember to roll it, but it won't kill us in one hit and we have many heals, so all in all nothing is too dangerous here and we can easily dethrone Godric. Castle cleared, I started to go and loot every mine I could find, that we can see on the map because they have this dark hole symbol, because for now our shields need regular smithing stones to upgrade and we can buy a limited number of level 1 and 2 from merchants, but we will need a lot more of them and we can take all the stones we want from the mines without fighting. Now that our shields are upgraded, we go back to the capital, because outside the main door there are 2-3 sentinels that will drop a shield. Fighting them at the same time would be insane, but since they are scripted to walk forward, we can use that to our advantage, because they'll start to move only after we get close to them. So we get near one, wait for them to walk past the first platform, and then we go to the other one and hit it. This way we can fight the first one alone, and then we can go and face the other one. I think that starting with the one with the shield first is the best idea, since it has a phase 2 where we can basically kill us in one hit, and it's kind of hard to block since the horse will jump around all the time. To defeat them, we want to stay in front of them, just a bit to the left, and this way their attacks will miss us most of the time. We keep our shield up, block their hits, and when they miss, or at the end of attack sequences, we can get in with damage without any problem. We won the shield from this fight because it has a special skill that allows us to parry spells thrown to us and retaliate with a golden ranged attack. After a short trip to Volcano Manor, since we'll need to go there eventually, we can go to Sunny Chelid, where we sneak our way into a festival with a fake bracelet and we end up having to fight Radahn. At the beginning of the fight we want to roll his purple arrows, and when the volleys start we can jump on a horse and get close to him. Once his swords are out, he will stay in melee. We want to fight him on foot and we have to stay really close in front of him in order to hit, due to our short range, but that is actually a pretty advantageous position to fight. His sword attacks will miss us most of the time if we are this close to him, and since he has very heavy swords we can't quite block well. It costs too much stamina and we wouldn't be able to hit him after. Being aggressive during the fight can be useful, because he has some gravity attacks that deal magic damage. We can't fully block them and dodging them is hard, since they will deal damage in a pretty big dome around him. So if the fight goes on for too long we will use many heals due to them. Granted, if we play aggressively we will lose HP because we can get hit from time to time, but at least we are hitting him back. Plus he can't kill us in one hit, so it's not that big of a Bombardier. When he drops to half HP, he will fly in the sky and come down as a meteor, but we can jump on our horse to dodge him, and then the fight is almost the same. He just has some more fancy moves and is a bit more aggressive, but our strategy remains roughly the same. We stay close and hit him a lot. We have to recognize when he tries to throw us his meteors, but it's pretty easy to do if we are always close to him. He will disengage, scream, turn around and swing his swords twice. At that point the meteors will start to move and he will charge at us. Walking away from him can be useful so that he can't catch us when we dodge the rocks, but it's just a matter of rolling a fairly slow attack. After inflicting him too many times frost and bleed, we win the fight. And look at this shot, by far the best armor combination in the game. His death will unlock the stars, meaning that a meteor fell on Lingrave and there is a huge hole in the woods now, and we have to jump in said hole because through it we can reach some ruins and proceed in the game. That are ruins probably because the only way to go there is after a meteor blows up their ceiling. The first boss fight here is the Mimic Tear, that is an NPC that copies our equipment, so we can enter without armor and weapons and equip it later. This fight becomes absolutely free, and we can proceed. Here we can light up fires in a field, and after all 6 of them are on, we could fight a regular sized moose that gives us a remembrance, but this fight doesn't really work with shields, so we'll do it later when we are stronger and it takes less time. From the field we can go in 2 different directions. One of them is the Siofra Aqueduct. Here we can find the Crucible Knight, a very strong enemy that has few openings and deals tons of damage. To defeat him we could simply fight very patiently, dodging some attacks and blocking others, attacking only when we can do it safely, until he falls. Or we could bring him to half HP by walking around him and hitting him on the back, because when phase 2 begins he has a flying attack that has more range than he can handle, so we just have to stand in front of a window, and while we get his shield we can learn a new word, Defenestration. This shield is really good because it deals a good amount of damage, for being a shield I mean, it's all physical damage and it can be upgraded with only Sombra Stones. But no way I'm going to fight the Valiant Gargoyles. So first we hug Fia and then we go to Liurnia. Here, behind an illusory wall, we can meet a smith that will sell us Sombra Stones if we didn't already get them in the mines. And if we proceed down the road we can reach the Caria Manor. Inside we just have to run and hope the very scary hands don't catch us. A thing you can experience too if you decide to not sleep for 12 days straight, and we can fight the Royal Knight Loretta, Phantom version. I decided to use the Golden Shield for this fight, because Loretta uses a lot of spells and I wanted to try out the spell parry. I have to say it looks pretty good, but if 4 projectiles are coming and we use it, we will absorb one of them and we take damage from the other ones as if we were blocking. So we can either sidestep multiple hit spells and just parry the last part of it, or simply bash Loretta's Phantom Skull in with a shield. We fight her as every other knight that is actually on a horse. We stand in front of her just a bit to the left and her hits will miss us most of the time. Turns out we can retaliate her strongest spell with the weapon skill, and that helps out quite a lot. Behind her we can ignore the crystal lizard with wings and we meet Ranni. We join her ranks so that she sends us on a quest in the other place we could go from the field deep underground from before. We don't actually need her to go there, I just forgot to do it previously. Here we can find the black wet blade that allows us to infuse our shields with blood, and we get the item Ranni wants. There are no mandatory fights here. We get back, she gives us a key and then disappears. The other rise in this place is open now, and we can go there to take a warp that brings us underground but in a different place. Here we can talk to Ranni's doll to proceed with her quest, but we don't actually need to do that because the remaining steps of her quest won't bring us to a remembrance and thus are not needed. Also, you don't even need her quest to get here, but it's faster. While I was rambling, we reached the end of this place, where there is a baleful shadow that won't spawn if we don't try to talk to Ranni's doll 3 or more times. But I miss the Bloodborne doll a lot since it isn't on PC yet and I forgot I wasn't supposed to. After that, there is the Lake of Rot, an area composed of a lake full of rot, and behind we could go and fight a boss that has a remembrance, but we'll leave it for later too. I mean, I died a couple of times to it before giving up. Here I decided that using a small shield with bleed and frost is boring, so I upgraded the Crucible Shield to +9. We can't find the final upgrade stone yet, but the advantage of Sombra Stones is that we just need 1 per level to upgrade the weapon. I still can't beat the gargoyles, so I'll go the long way around to avoid them, meaning I have to enter the capital, and to do that I have to defeat the Draconic Tree Sentinel, that is a bit more annoying than regular Tree Sentinels because his weapon is really heavy, so blocking it uses a lot of stamina and will launch us backwards most of the time, and it has a big OE that can hit us from behind or from the other side of the horse, and I say horse, but since it spews fireballs, I'm not so sure about the exact phylogenetic tree. In phase 2, he starts to use lightning, so we take some damage if we try to block now, but thankfully his swings are still pretty slow, so we can dodge and then use either regular or charged attacks, based on what his next move is going to be. If we see him waiting around, we can use a charged one. He will get staggered a couple of times, since it's a shield, but it's still pretty heavy, and we get into the capital. Here we can traverse the place very easily. We jump down the balcony and parkour on the golden roofs, take an elevator, and then we can jump in the sewers. From there we can reach the wing of the dragon, climb it, and we get to a grace just before a boss fight. We go back to the wing, where in the area just below it we can see a well. We go down said well to reach a hidden area, and some of you may not know it, but they did the same trick in the original Dark Souls. Go jump into the well in Firelink Shrine for a secret ending. Here we are in the subterranean Shanning Grounds, and we have to run around a bit until we see this big brass pipe. We jump in it, and then we have to fall down a hole. This way we can take another elevator, and we reach a boss fight that is not mandatory. Pretty tough, but first of all is a way to recoup some runes, since we have pretty much skipped every boss fight this far, and most importantly it allows us to skip the Valiant Gargoyles. Since our level is low, we have to be tight during the fight, but he hasn't got that many attacks, so recognizing them and figuring out when we can get a hit in isn't that hard. When he attacks with his trident, he will deal only physical damage, so we can block it freely, but we can't get a guard counter in if not at the end of an attack sequence, meaning that if he goes for a thrust or if he does a little jump back, we are free to hit, else we stay shielded. He has an attack where he strikes the ground and then pulls out his weapon, and both actions have an hitbox, but they will deal a lot of stamina damage if blocked, so we can guard counter them, but if we run out of stamina, it can be dangerous. We have to roll every time he summons the exploding fire blood, and after that we can usually block a piercing attack and guard counter, and if he does the delayed explosion and swing, we can roll under the swing and get in with a charge attack. If he throws blood at us, we have to roll, and when he showers himself with blood, we have to stay away, because due to our short range we get too close if we attack and we will get hit most of the time. If we bleed, he will hit harder, so we need to prioritize avoiding the blood attacks. This fight, all in all, is tough, but after enough trials I managed to defeat him, and after he is dead we can hit his altar and proceed to find a seal that I forgot was there and that unlocks after defeating Morgoth. If you're playing along, maybe fight him later. We proceed in the capital, where, after walking on a route, we can fight God Frey, Phantom Edition. He is really aggressive, so if we block all of his attacks, we can end up without stamina, but most of the time we can just walk to the right, block his first attacks, and he will end up missing us with the rest, and we get a free hit in the end. We can block his foot stomp, even if we are far away from him, but all in all this boss fight is much easier than the previous one. Is it because we weren't meant to fight the previous one yet? Possibly. Up next we have to fight Morgoth, and turns out that he is Margit, but he bought his sword from the CSGO market for only $54,000. It is stat tracked though. He's actually not that hard, he jumps around a bit more than regular Margit, but we can still block his sword easily, because it doesn't drain much stamina, and it gives us a bit of bleed damage, but it's so few that it doesn't actually matter. His light sword and hammer will still deal damage to us if we block, but since he has a cool looking sword now, he will use that most of the time. When he drops to half HP, he will go into phase 2, and you can notice it because he starts puking on the ground. Yeah, if you think about it, for the rest of the fight we have bodily fluids up to our ankles. That's gross, I'll stop talking about it. Now, his sword will deal some damage if we block, but we should still have enough heals to sustain it. In phase 2, when he smashes his hammer on the ground, and sometimes even his sword, the ground will light up a bit and then explode. So, if we aren't behind him, we have to disengage and we lose a bit of damage. He has now some blood attacks that we have to dodge, but I can't stop thinking about the puke-infused sword, so please get him out of here, he's dead, we got the remembrance, all good. Instead of proceeding into the cold lands in the north, we go back to the sewers, where the seal is now broken. We can proceed down, jumping from grave to grave, until we reach the bottom. This room is needed for the Three Fingers questline, but we don't care about that. We just have to pass both these illusory walls and we end up in Deeproot Depths, the zone behind the Valiant Gargoyles boss fight. Here we run on some routes with the horse, end up in a sunk city, run on some more routes to get to the top and fight our next boss. It It begins with the champion, and we just stand still blocking, since his attacks will bounce on our shield and we can guard counter in response. The second guy is Rogier, and if he uses spells we have to dodge, but if we stand close to him and get a little lucky, he will keep on spamming piercing attacks that we can block and guard counter easily. This technique won't work as well now, since there are 3 of them, so instead we want to focus one of the 2 champions as soon as the fight begins and hope that we can take him down. If that doesn't happen, it can be annoying, because they can swarm us and their attacks are too slow to sneak in between their hits, but we can run around a bit to get the last couple of hits in. Lionel will keep on spamming spells, and if that happens we have to run away, but when there are only 2 of them we can wait for the spells to decay and then run in with a heavy running attack. They won't react in time. When only Lionel remains, we can keep on running away from the spells and using running attacks. If we feel lucky we can block his sword and guard counter, but sometimes he decides to backstep and hit us, so it isn't super reliable. After we clear them, Fia is there. We chat with her a bit and then go to the Carian Tower in Liurnia with the key Ranni gave us, so that we can get half Rune of Death. We give the rune to Fia, that will go to sleep, and we could now enter her dream to fight a dragon, but this fight doesn't work well with the shield, so it's for later. But later came for some previous fights, so we can go to the Grand Cloister after the Lake of Rot and get in a coffin to fight Astel, natural born of the Bloodborne, bearer of a remembrance. The biggest problem in this fight is that its head has a wonky hitbox due to our short range, and if we don't understand how to hit it, we almost can't win. We want to use only charged attacks, because to do them we raise the shield over our head and then we slam. That allows us to hit higher than normal attacks, and we really need it, because Astel will float a bit over the ground most of the time. The charged attacks also follow our enemies very well, and luckily its claws are considered head, and we can hit it from the back too. After some hits it will stun, and we can do a charged attack instead of a riposte. It's not the best, but it's some free damage. To avoid getting hit, we can block some of its moves, but not all of them. If we stand close, some will naturally miss, but when we see it going backward and opening its mandibles, we have to dodge, since it's a grab attack. If we have faith in Marika, we can just close our eyes and run through its meteors, or we can like raise our shield and go a bit to the left, your choice. Some more charged attacks later, some more meteors, and this weird insect thing gets crushed. We keep on clearing all the bosses we left behind, and up next is Renala, and it isn't the first time she got left behind, but at least I came back. Too lore heavy of a joke? Nah, come on, it works, in this game it's understandable. To fight Renala, we have to hit her goth students that may be copies of her while they're singing. And after we take down 3 of them, we can hit Renala. I think that with this build I could have taken her down in one cycle, but it didn't happen. No worries, we take down the students again and then we can finish her. She always begins phase 2 with the laser, but if we run around her, she will miss, and we can get a hit in. Then, the best moment to damage her is when she throws her scepter. Her summons can be dangerous, but they will disappear after a bit. And for some reason after she drops to half HP she can aim her laser way better, but I mean it's an early game boss, it's easy either way. When she falls, not only we get her remembrance, but she will stay here as an NPC that allows us to reshuffle our levels, more on that later. In Nokron we have to face the Moose, and as I said previously, this fight doesn't quite work with a shield. Its body is too high up, meaning that we will miss it with every hit aside from charged attacks, but most of the time it will jump, dash or roll away before we can hit. We could maybe hit its head, but it's really unreliable because we can't target it and it will move it around quite frequently. This means that we will deal the bulk of our damage by focusing the legs, and we have to do it without targeting. During the fight it will stand still and take life force from the phantom animals around, both dealing damage in an area and healing itself. The first I think 2 times it will heal more, but for the following ones it will just heal a little bit. This is just an endurance fight. We cannot damage its heals, but it takes a long time. Thankfully we can block most of its attacks. We have a lot of heals ourselves, and the shield is at +9, so the damage isn't that bad. Really? Legend failed for the radioactive deer? Whatever. Now that we cleared what we left behind, we can go to the capital, gain access to the lift and reach the Forbidden Lands, where after running in very dangerous places for a bit we can get into Castle Sol, well, very dangerous place. All the enemies here are strong, and since they are phantoms they will disappear and reappear near us all of the time. But thankfully we can block some explosive ballista bolts and roll a bit to reach a grace. We have to run through some enemies every time we want to get to the boss fight, because there is a shortcut, but it takes more time to use it than to go directly from the grace. This fight can be really hard if we just jump in shields blazing, because it's a 3 versus 1, but if we go near the summon with 2 swords we can aggro it. The actual boss boss will mind his own business if we don't get too close, and the other summon is slower, so we can get a 1 vs 1 fight with the first summon, where we can just block and counter most moves. Then the other one will be near us, and we can fight him. He is a bit more annoying, because we can't get guard counters in, since he will raise his shield before they hit, but the commander will still just hang out and wait for us if we stay away, so we can take all the time we want. Now the actual fight begins, but it's not that bad. It's just annoying that we have to clear the 2 guys before every try. Well, I mean, it sucks. We deal basically no damage and he keeps on giving us either frostbite or hitting with lightning through the shield, but it could be worse. We have a bit of a positioning problem in this fight, because his right leg is a prosthetic that becomes lightning, and that is also his strongest attack, since it has a large area of effect, deals tons of damage, and we can't block it properly with it being lightning, meaning that we want to be as far away from it as we can. But if we stand on his left, he can hit us with a very fast attack with the back of the polearm. After some trials, I decided to stand on the left and block the fast attack, because yes, it will lower the amount of openings we have, since this attack will stagger us if we try to guard counter the previous one, but his right leg is way too dangerous. We can still get guard counters in, mostly at the end of an attack sequence, but we can also deal a good amount of damage after his dashes and jumps. We just have to block the fast attack before attacking ourselves. When he dies, we can get half a medallion, and the other half is in Liurnia at the village of the Albinorics. We also take Latenna with us, that is in a cave near here, because she will give us the final Somber Smithing Stone. And I mean, she's going to give it to us now, because with both halves we can reach the other Forbidden Land, and after getting lost in the fog because I thought I was grown up enough to not follow the light, we can reach the northernmost point of this area, where a dog that shoots magic attacks is strolling. Behind it there is a church, and we drop off Latenna that pays us for the ride with the last Somber Stone. Thankfully, it wasn't fake torrent. Here I remembered that I forgot to take the shield that I'll use for the last third of the run, so we go back to the sewers, where we fell on the graves, and in the last layer we find said shield, that is basically a stone slab. After that we can gain access to the next area by lighting 4 flames, while some archers with machine guns try, and usually manage, to kill us. We get to the Helic Tree, and here we can get a good amount of advanced crafting materials before fighting the boss of the area, Loretta Flesh version. She actually isn't that much harder than the one we fought before, and the fight goes mostly the same way. We stand in front of her to the left, so that we can guard counter the first attack and the second swing will miss us. I didn't bring the shield that reflects spells, because now in phase 2, when she becomes dangerous, she has only multiple projectile sorceries, so pairing them becomes awkward. Also, we get an ungodly amount of runes for this easy fight. We can go down in the city and get some graces and some runes, but there is no way I'm going to fight Malenia for now. I have to fight and kill an invader at a church in the plateau to get an upgrade for the Physic that we'll need later for the Lord of Blood, and we can get back to Fia, that didn't wake up yet, to fight Lich Dragon Fortisax. Now, this fight is very high up in the it doesn't work with a shield chart, that I probably won't bother actually making, because as with most of the dragons in the game, it takes more damage if hit in the head, but our range is short, our attacks are slow, and his head moves weirdly, so hitting it is really hard. You may think, well, but what's the problem then? Just focus on the legs. And yeah, that's true and it's what I'm going to do, but the developers really wanted us to understand that we have to attack the head, and thus, every time we are under the dragon in any way, we get a debuff that after a couple of seconds we do a lightning explosion where we stand. And then, if we are still under the dragon, the debuff applies again. We can avoid the damage without having to roll, but we have to be running the moment the lightning transfers to the ground and then explodes. Because of this, the fight becomes almost rhythm based. We want to hit the leg a couple of times, start running towards the other leg to avoid the lightning, then we can do a running attack and a couple more regular attacks, and we run again. During all this though, the dragon isn't going to sit idle waiting for us to break his ankles, and his attacks that can hit us consist mostly of lightning waves that we have to roll through if we aren't very close to the feet, and turning around suddenly followed by swipes. He can go fly in the air sometimes, and it is a dangerous attack, but it's not that hard to understand. We may die the first couple of times we see it, but then we should get the timing right. His death clouds don't bother us too much, and for some reason his fingers don't have an hitbox, so focus the rest of the feet. We have to fight the fire giant now, and I was afraid this was going to be a nightmare, but it wasn't actually that bad. In phase 1 we can fight as intended. We always stay on the horse and we can hug his left leg to reliably hit him. Our attacks are actually faster than I expected them to be. Granted, Granted, our damage isn't the best, but it's manageable. He doesn't have an attack that can one-hit kill us, so we may have to use a couple of flasks when he swats us with his shield. Jump in the air for the maximum comedic effect, but it's not a problem. When he starts to summon the fireballs that slowly follow us, we can go near them and then dash away so that we trigger their explosion with no risk. After half HP, he will go into phase 2 and self-inflict some damage, and now we should hit his head, hands or the eye in the chest to deal more damage, but I didn't feel that confident in doing it since it will still take a lot of time, so instead I equipped the bleed shield and kept on attacking his legs and back. It still takes many hits to bleed him, but we only have to do it twice, and then we can finish him off with the regular shield. He now has 3 attacks that can be dangerous. He can roll, and if he rolls towards us we get hit almost every time, but it doesn't deal that much damage. He can do a volcano-like attack where he starts spewing exploding rocks all around, but if we stand close to him we should avoid the bulk of it. And finally the most dangerous one. When he disengages from us, if we are in front of him, he will throw 2 very fast fireballs at us, and to avoid that we have to dash with the horse at the right time, because they can kill us easily if they hit us, especially if we already took damage while he was going away. Here we can say goodbye to Torrent, since he won't be needed anymore, and Melina shows us who her favorite character from the Lord of the Rings is. We end up in crumbling Farum Azula, where after deciding that I won't fight any enemy here, we can parkour on the ruins until we get to everybody's favorite fight from this game. Let's say it together: the 4 Godskin dudes. I was losing my mind here. I spent hours trying to defeat them, but it's really annoying because they are resistant to strike and I can't get an attack in without the other one staggering me. And then I realized that I can use the golden shield, because if we stay far from them they will spam fireballs at us, and we can easily parry them and retaliate. If they land on us at the same time, it's not a problem. We will use the golden beam on one and the other one will end up on the shield, but often simply dodging them is a good idea. The timing is a bit tight, but we have plenty of fireballs to try it out. It only costs 4 FP to parry an attack, so with a couple cerulean flasks we have enough damage to take them down. When one dies, after a bit the other one will summon him again, and the only thing we want to avoid is bringing the large one to below half HP, or else he'll start rolling around. It will eventually happen, since the damage has a bit of an air of effect, but if that happens, no worries and we keep shooting. With them deleted we get a bell bearing that allows us to buy regular smithing stones 7 and 8, so we can go and take the bearings to get 1 to 6, it's just 3 of them, and we can buy all the stones we need to get our fingerprint shield to plus 25. The final stone was in the Helic tree. In Stormveil Castle we can get a wet blade with a stone sword key, and that allows us to have an heavy infusion in the shield that makes it scale better with strength, and since now we are at a high enough level, it's worth it. While still in Farum Azula we can take a sort of secret path that we are going to learn very well, since we have to do it every time we die in this boss fight, because my best guess is that Bandai Namco did a deal with a company that sells medicine for high blood pressure. Here we have to fight Dragon Lord Placidus Axe, and I think dragons in this game have a passion for not working properly with shields, even if they don't have legs. When the fight begins, or every time they shout, lightning will start to appear at regular intervals around our feet, and it can be easily avoided by running if we aren't attacking when it happens. So we need a bit of rhythm, but we can focus their hands and dodge it while we move from one end to the other. If we hit their heads we deal more damage, but we have to be really close to do that, and most of their attacks are swipes that end with a lightning explosion, so we could stand in front of them and dodge or block the hits, or we can have slightly less DPS and focus the tail. Here we won't be hit by many attacks, and almost all of them are slow with easy tells. It also means that after the first third of HP they are going to teleport away a lot more, but it isn't that big of a deal. Speaking about teleports, that is an attack they have where they disappear and then come back down flying. The first time it happens it's easy to dodge, but in all the following times they are followed by a trail of lightning that has a big and delayed hitbox. To avoid dying to this attack we can use how the shield works to our advantage, because if we block the first attack we get launched backwards, and in that time period we are immune to damage, so we avoid the lightning trail but we take a bit of damage from the first swipe. When they start to appear and disappear we can just walk and dodge backwards, and the only thing that remains to this fight is blocking a bit, focusing the tail, and if they summon lightning and then disappear we need to run as soon as they come back. We need to avoid their lasers because they are going to kill us. After 10 minutes of not dealing enough damage they disappear here for good, and we can go the other way to fight Maliketh. Phase 1 would be very easy if we could hit him when we are under him, but since they didn't spend hours of development to make sure that some fool with only a shield was able to hit the boss normally, it is a bit more annoying. We can block every hit, no problem in that, and some of them have a very small non-physical part that will damage us a bit, but it's so little damage that we don't even care. To hit him, we have to wait for him to do either a big swipe or a hit where he stands up on his feet, and we have to walk a bit back and to the side when that happens, so we can block it and guard counter on his arms. We go left for the attack from above and right for the swipe. We need to stay close for him to do the full combo that ends with the attacks we can guard counter, so we can only walk back at the end. If we get a stagger, we can do a charged attack, and all that remains is blocking. It takes a bit, but it's really easy. At half HP the fight begins, and he keeps on jumping away like a coward, so hitting him with our slow shield is a big problem. His shape doesn't help us either, since his top half is just a bit too big to let us hit him. The problems with this fight aren't over, because every time he hits us, even if we block the hit, our total HP is lowered and we burn for a bit, taking a lot of damage. We need to heal a lot to win here, because we have to try and hit him every time we can, even if that means trading damage. We can get hits in mainly two situations, and both happen after he jumps down from an attack sequence. If he is on his sword, we want to be behind him, because he will do another jump back and we can hit before he starts to fly around again. If his sword is in the ground and there is a red explosion, we can dodge it and hit. After enough trials, we managed to smack his head with a stone enough times to take him down, and now I'm scared for what's going to happen in the next fights. We get back to Leyndell, and we have to defeat Gideon to proceed, but he is really weak. We stagger him easily, we don't take much damage, his AI is a bit trash, and my shield does madness damage that is only relevant on Tarnished like him. After that we can go and face Godfrey, and the first part of the fight is the easiest one. It's almost the same as the Phantom Godfrey we faced before, but since now we have to face 3 more phases after that, we want to be as tight as possible, avoiding all damage. So, to hit him, we block his swings by standing in front of him. Then when the big one is coming, we move to the right. He will miss, and we can do a charged attack free of risk. Be careful though, because if instead of dragging his axe on the ground, he twirls it in the air, we have to run away. That is a different attack that blows up the ground in a big line. For now, we can block his stomps, but at around a quarter of HP he will stand still and shout, and from now on we can't block them anymore, so we have to either jump, that is the best choice, or roll them. Well, we can actually block them, but only if our shield gets hit by his foot in the stomp, and it's marginally useful, but it's also the only situation where trying to dodge it is risky. When he drops to half HP, he decides to fight us as Hora Lu Warrior, and the problems only increase. He now has many feints, grab attacks, and feints during grab attacks, and obviously we can't block grab attacks, and I don't know if his AI is that good at reading us or is just cheating, but every time I decided to guard counter at the end of an attack sequence, he punished me with an additional attack, and every time I didn't do it, he stood still. We have a couple of good moments to deal damage now, mainly after he punches us for a bit. If we go behind him while he's doing a leg swipe, we can attack, and if he jumps in the air and comes down blowing up the ground, we can hold our shield up during the explosion and guard counter right after, but we have to walk behind him during the animation or we will get hit after dealing damage. When he has only a quarter of HP left, he will do the same shout as before, and now his stomp attacks can't be blocked. This last part of the fight is by far the hardest one, because we don't have many openings to damage him, we will probably need many heals, and at the same time it's hard to heal without getting hit by something, but at the end of the day, Rock always beats hand. In the Western Forbidden Lands, we can find a warp that brings us to a small area where we can find the Lord of Blood, and something like 15 hours ago I got a tier made for this fight. We put it into the Faisik and drink it at the beginning of the fight. The first phase is exactly the same as Sewer Mog, same moves, openings and all. I think that he may be a bit bigger and have more HP, but overall our damage is much higher than before and we know this boss fight, so bringing him to half HP is really easy. Now he starts to shout and heal himself himself for a lot while doing damage to us. Thanks to the fire stick we take little damage. If we don't use it, we bleed 3 times, basically forcing us to use 3 flasks. During this animation he is resistant to damage, and now he has wings and the fight changes a bit. Not in that he has a brand new moveset, but our approach needs to be different, because now all his swings have a flaming bleed attack attached to them. So if we block them we take a bit of damage and a lot of bleed build up, and additional blood will fly from the tip of his big fork, meaning that we need to be close to him and we can't block as freely as before. All his blood attacks now will burn on the ground for a long time, dealing additional bleed, and these new flying attacks are annoying, since we want to be close to him and they are a good way he has to create distance from us. That said, his triple swing that ends with him backstepping is still a good way to damage him, even though we can't properly punish him for using the pierce attack. Our damage is still surprisingly decent, and he is low enough that we can keep on attacking. So, like in the real world, it doesn't matter if they call themselves Lord when you can break their skull with a rock. Now there are only 3 bosses left, and you may think that it's almost over. We just need to clean up and that's it. And you would be wrong, because these are the hardest bosses in the game, and we are going to have a bad time. Also, you would be wrong because the bosses are 4. I still haven't defeated the God's King guy at Volcano Manor. We start off by going to the manor, and by that I mean that I spent a couple of hours trying to beat Malenia and I gave up. But to take down Rykard we are going to need a new weapon, and I went to sell it to take said weapon. That is actually obviously a shield, but I hope you got that after the first 30 minutes of video. To get there we have to pass from the underground, and this one is a heavy shield that deals a base 70 bleed per hit, and we can bring that to a staggering 160 if we infuse it with blood and we respect our levels with Renala to have more arcane, since now the game works and arcane, the hit League of Legends show, actually scales with weapons. To respec we need to use a consumable, but thankfully from the Mimic tier we got 2 of them and we got an helmet that gives us plus 8 arcane, at the cost of some base damage, but we don't really care about that. In this fight we are supposed to use a spear that we find in this arena to fight the boss, and to let us understand that, the developers put a giant pool of lava around the boss that moves with him. Thankfully the lava doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it will stagger us every couple of seconds, so dealing damage becomes annoying. We can block the lava for some reason, but it doesn't give us a real advantage, because our way to deal damage in this fight is jumping. The lava will stagger us out of a hit, and I don't know if it's because of good luck or good game design, but we can get staggered, do a jump attack, when we touch the ground we get staggered again and we can jump, and we just need to do that repeatedly. We have bleed with us, even if it takes many hits to trigger it, because this boss has too many HP, and we could do some fancy strats hitting the head during phase 1 and change them in phase 2, but who cares? This works very well and there are almost no attacks that can hit us. We just have to remember to keep on walking towards the boss because the hitboxes don't work very well. In phase 2 there are 2 things that can hit us: his flaming exploding trail flying skulls that go through his body and damage us out of nowhere, and when the sky turns red he starts to summon a different kind of flaming skulls. They are more red and are going to chase us all over the arena. Here we have to disengage and run away. Thankfully it's not hard to do, since we just have to run. If we run out of stamina we can crouch and uncrouch. That is not a word, but it's easy to understand what it means. And we lose almost no speed, but we regenerate a lot of stamina. And this is peak Elden Ring, as Hidetaka Miyazaki intended. Now, before we fight Malenia, I went to get an emblem and an armor that will let us deal more jump attack damage, because, you guessed it, we are going to mostly jump attack. I only know 2 things about this boss. It's the hardest fight in the whole Darkborn Elden series, by far, and she is Malenia, Blade of Miquella. Before I went into the fight I infused the shield with cold, and I did another respec, and these are my levels if you are deranged enough to try this for some reason. But the infusion has 2 main drawbacks. We will deal a bit less damage than having an heavy shield, and we won't block 100% physical damage anymore. The block is not a big deal. She will heal every time she hits us, even if we block, so aside from one attack we want to dodge every time. The damage is actually a false drawback. Yes, we are going to deal less damage per hit, but we will deal frost build up with every hit, and how frost works is that it deals damage based on the opponent's max HP, that is a lot in this case, but for the following 30 seconds they will take additional damage and they won't get any more frost build up. So the big debate is frost or bleed. Bleed deals more damage and can be caused more times in a fight, but every time a status effect is activated it will be harder to do it the following time, and she has so many HP that we won't be able to to use it anymore near the end of the fight, also because she will heal herself, sometimes by force, whereas with Frost we have a good balance of Frost activations and regular damage, also she's basically naked so she's weaker to Frost. Now the problem is actually managing to hit her enough times, and to understand how to do that I had to die a lot of times trying to play passively and running away, but the truth is we have to be really aggressive and always stay close to her. We want to dodge to her left, and our attacks are slow so we can deal damage only in a couple of situations. The rest of the time we have to understand what attack she's doing and dodge. We use jumping attacks, because they deal a lot of damage, they bring us closer to her, and we can dodge some of her follow-ups by jumping over her sword. We can safely damage her after she does a flip in the air that ends with a vertical sword attack to the ground, when she does a charged attack that we can dodge by just walking around her, when she disengages with either one or two jumps, but in that case we have to be fast and start running as soon as she moves backwards or will get punched, and similarly goes for her grab and her piercing attack. She will end up far away from us if we dodge towards her or to the side, but if we dodge in the same direction of the attack it's more dangerous, but we end up near her so we can jump and hit her before her next attack starts. If we are just a bit late we won't stagger her because she has hyper armor during dashes. The last way we have to hit her is after she does a roundhouse kick. If we dodge it without rolling we can run in and do a jumping attack. We will either stagger her or her follow-up will miss us since we are in the air. To avoid her water flow dance attack we have two ways. If we are far away from her we can run from the first two waves and roll the third one, but if we are close we will probably be recovering from an attack, so we have to raise our shield, tank the first wave, and with a tight timing we can roll the second and third wave. If you are close to walls it isn't really reliable because she will stop on them and move weirdly, but we shouldn't die. Every time she uses that attack and we have to block, or we mess up and she hits us, she will heal, and she will heal for a lot, so be ready to see your progress disappear after one wrong roll. Also, I mean, if you die your progress disappears anyway. If we are too close to her and try to heal, she will punish us with a thrust attack, so to heal we have to run away from her. She won't chase us most of the time, and to re-engage we can just walk up to her and wait for her to attack. Phase 2 is harder, because now after her flip in the air there will be an explosion where the sword hits the ground, and after that she can fly up and do another slam with an explosion, so we have to dodge the first flip to the side and wait a bit to see if she's going to jump in the air. If it doesn't happen we can attack. If she jumps we dodge again and then attack. She can do that too after her thrust attack now, so we need to wait a bit even if it could be dangerous, but if we don't wait it's even more dangerous. Her scariest attack here is one where she floats in the air flying and her flower goons come chasing us, but if we stand there dodging, between the fourth and fifth attack we are going to get hit, because the fifth one is faster, so we need to run away and we will probably need to dodge the sixth attack, but what we have to be sure is that she won't hit us. Some of her attacks can give Scarlet Rot, and we are basically dead if you get it, but thankfully it's just the flower explosion that we can dodge and her water flow dance that we will block like in phase 1, but that doesn't give us that much build up. If you try doing this at home you'll notice that hitting her with the shield jump attack is really hard, and if you don't try doing it you're probably smarter than me. Only Radagon is left, and I actually found this fight easy, but maybe it was because I was in the zone and I was expecting a Malenia difficult level. I kept the same build as before, mainly because I didn't feel like finding another consumable to respec, but it's good enough. We want to be really close to him at all times, because some of his attacks have a delayed explosion in front of them. After he loses around half HP he becomes a bit more annoying, but our damage is really good and we can tank many hits, so it's not a problem. We then have to fight the Elden Beast, but we can block every hit it throws at us with no problem. It's just a bit slow because the fish can decide to swim away or do annoying attacks that just waste our time. And with that I'll say that you can beat Elden Ring with only a shield. And if you like the video leave a like or even subscribe. I'll see you next time. Well, you'll see me. See the video at least. Why do I always mess up the outro? You have no idea how tempted I was to use this forbidden technique that is sort of using a shield.